buy her a new washing machine, and I told her I couldn't do it. We didn't have the money to do it. At that time I was working in the service station. I was running the service station. I was only there about 12 hours a day. Back then, we actually went out and pumped gas and did mechanical work on the cars as well. Man, I knew I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. Came home, she asked me for a washing machine. I told her no and went to bed mad and laid there all night and telling myself, what an idiot. All she wants is a washing machine to wash her stinking, filthy clothes. And we'd already been married 17 years, and I can't buy her a washing machine. Finally, I got her one because I traded some gas for a guy up the street that had a used appliance store. But I made up my mind that night. I swear to God, I made up my mind that night. I ain't doing this for the rest of my life. I'm going to go find something else to do. I had no idea what something else meant. Then I saw this ad come by real estate with no money or credit. I knew that had to be a scam. But something told me to go check it out. And I almost didn't because J.R. Ewing was on TV that night, Dallas. And I loved J.R. He was my kind of guy. Super rich asshole. He was just my guy. And so I went down to a 2-hour preview, and guess who was teaching it? Carlton Sheets.
All right.
And then he put me into a 2-day seminar, which is where it all started. All about nothing down. By the way, 95% of that went. But I picked up on that wholesale thing, and I got my first check within 3 weeks for $3,000. And that was the beginning. I carried that money around for 2 days in my pocket. I didn't want to turn loose of it. It was already spent. Already spent. But then I went out and I started doing it again while everybody else went home. And then I kept doing it. And I did 23 deals my first 6 months and didn't have much of a clue what I was doing. But I was buying all the wrong kind of crap, all the low-end crap, and renting it out because I was told that's how you make money in real estate. And it is, if you live long enough. It is. So I'm telling you, within the first 2 years, I had over $1 million worth of equity, but very poor cash flow. And I learned that equity don't spend very well. So it took me, after the first 2 years, I wanted to get rid of all that crap. It was sucking my life away. And I too was on the phone at the time in my home. And I started selling it junk. It took me 5 more years to get to the point where I actually figured out how to make the real money in real estate. And I started turning it into cash today that we could live on. And of course, all over the years we've been improving on that with all the changes in the technology we got today. And I mean, I was doing everything myself. I had nobody working with me until I hired my daughter 2 years in to be my first secretary. And you know, I could work her cheap, and if I didn't have the money, I could make her wait. And for a lot of years, I just didn't know what we're talking about right now. And terms, I know what terms was. It must have been 15 years in that I figured out what terms were, because nobody was kind of teaching that out there. They all was going after the jumpers, like they still are today. Most of the competition is looking for jumpers. There's very little competition on terms. So it was food that I needed for it, and greed. So I quit my job, which is I do not advise you to do, any of you. You get the money coming in from real estate, then you can decide when you want to get out of your job. The best thing you can do is build your residual income, so you know what's coming in whether you get out of bed in the morning or not, which is the way you run any business. Build it so it doesn't need you. So, you know, I just stuck with it. Most people come and go, come back later, and so real estate's been pretty good to me over the years. I started the same way, scared out of my mind, had any idea what I was doing, making stupid mistakes, buying junk in junk areas, renting them on HUD, everything you don't really need to do in life. And I wasn't guaranteed debt because my credit sucked. So I didn't make that mistake early on. I made that mistake later, prior to 2008. All right, next question.
Well, speaking of mistakes, what's one of the biggest mistakes you made either on a deal
I got that
or in real estate in general,
Okay.
and what's the lesson learned?
I started buying commercial property that students brought into me around 2004. And then by the time September of '08 came, I had 21 developments going on in 9 different states. Each one had its own student manager, and Tish was managing all of them. Oh, some beautiful developments. And for example, I had 5 properties already zoned to put houses on them in 5 different states. And, well, I actually finished one of them and sold, I was selling lots, I wasn't building houses. And then 2008 came, and man, money dried up around the world. I mean, when Lehman Brothers went down, the whole world shut down capital. I had credit lines at banks, and they wouldn't even give me money out of my own credit line. And it's not that they didn't have it, they did, they just didn't want to turn loose the money. They were scared of what's coming. Bank too big to fail. Scared of, and by the way, it changed the rules forever. Back then, we could get somebody a loan to put in the house if they could fog up a mirror. Really. So that's when it all began. When Lehman Brothers went down, there was no more exit strategies. I might have found a way to get the money to finish these things, but then what? Nobody was going to buy them. I mean, all builders shut down. Only thing was being built was something that they wanted to own or occupy. Yeah. And everything changed. And so if the exit strategies change, what are you going to do with them after you finish it? I mean, you do nothing with them. And I'm telling you, I tried to keep, I only had about $50 million worth of personal guaranteed debt. That's all. Now, you can imagine what the payments are on multiple projects. All the way from a resort in Alaska, which I'll show you tomorrow. Developments of different kind, timeshare projects, and commercial projects, and all kinds of things going on. So I tried to make payments on them things for about a year. And then I woke up one day and said, "You're an idiot. You ain't never gonna bail these projects out, and you're throwing away what money you have." So I made the decision, I'm not doing this anymore. Now, you would be surprised how flexible banks get when you owe them money and you're not paying them. They come at me with all kinds of ideas. Every one of them was if I put more money into them. And I'd rather donate it to charity than, and so some of them took projects back, some of them foreclosed on them. And that resulted in about $29 million worth of judgments against me personally, as I had to guarantee those loans, which is why I'm so adamant about you don't do this. And of course that created some lawsuits, and 2 or 3 years later they kind of gave up on me because I had already put into place what I'm trying to teach you on your asset protection here. Except there's one creditor that would chase me for 12 years, and I just settled with them yesterday. They challenged me on the tennis by the entirety, the whole thing's, and they lost all of those cases, and then they appealed them and still lost them, and finally got to the point to where that one judge here gave permission to go after my assets, and I said, well, better get this thing settled. So, what was the question?
One of the biggest mistakes you made in real estate, and the lesson you learned was don't guarantee debt.
Don't guarantee debt, and don't go building anything that doesn't have income. I was building everything to sell. By the time I could get around to doing any building, the world changed.
Yes, it did.
So
We had a builder here in Jacksonville. His solution was a bullet to his head. I mean, a lot of empires were tumbling. And some of you would remember that. If you weren't in the game, you probably wouldn't even hear about it. But I mean, it was a bad couple of years after 2008, including for global. We laid off half of our staff. One day, our income dropped 80%, and we got through it by just keeping on. And that's where you build grit. That's where you get strong when you're facing adversity.
Thicker skin.
Thicker skin, alligator skin.
That's it.
Which I've got. Like Trump.
Yeah.
He's got alligator skin, don't he?
Yes, he
All
does.
that crap. I don't know. I wouldn't want his job because half the country's going to hate you no matter what you do, especially him. If I could just get him to shut his mouth.
Right.
I ain't getting off on that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Barbara.
Well, same here as, and personally guaranteed debt. You, like Ron, right before 2008, you think, what can go wrong, right? And then 2008 hits and it goes wrong, and so having
Which is out of your
brothers-
control.
Yes, so that was my biggest regret. I will not do that again.
How many people do you think I've talked to in audiences like this?
Yes.
That found out the same thing.
Absolutely.
Right? You're not in control of everything going on out there, so you need to build your empire so that you are in control of it. And you gotta get banks out of your life. I don't need a bank for anything. Well, I guess I got up someplace to put money, but I should do that under my mattress, I think. So I don't need a bank to do my business, is the point. I learned, I don't need permission from some banker or what I can do. And to this very day, I live by that rule. I don't go into a bank, and I don't go into a bank at all. Melanie makes all the deposits, that's all done electronically nowadays. But such hard lessons that we learn over the years. So I hope you guys will take this information and not go through all this crap on your own. I'm gonna tell you again, I gotta tell you this 7 times. You guarantee debt, you're building your empire on a house of cards. It could change any time. You learn to buy real estate without guaranteeing debt, and you're always in control. And you can't lose. And all you lose is the house that you're not guaranteed, it's not on your credit report. And you've already made a bunch of money on it by then. I've never lost a house because of that, because there's always a solution. Things go wrong, you just fix them. And in this thing called real estate, ain't nothing gonna go wrong that's gonna hurt you unless you guarantee debt.
Right.
How many times have I said it now? I think I've said it 5 times. Okay. All right, well, I got 2 more to go tomorrow then. There you go.
So the other fear was afraid to take action because I would make a mistake. So I got my master's in 2007, and then 2008 hit. So going through that experience, don't be afraid to make a mistake, because then I realized that Ron's already gotten that problem solved. You're getting something under contract for $10, maybe $100. Worst case scenario is you don't close on it. So don't be afraid to make these mistakes. He's taken the risk out. I watched him create all that mess, and I didn't want any part of it, but then I watched Ron come through every single obstacle. I don't know anybody better on the planet to help you figure this out than him, because he's always found a way out. He's always been positive. And
What do you want?
I don't want anything.
Must want something.
No, I don't want anything.
being extra nice.
I don't ask you for anything. I'm just telling the class that you ask the biggest mistakes, and that's walking in fear. Don't do it, because that's what he's done all these years, has helped you so you're not going through these years of hard knocks. And that's why I didn't get in it. Honestly, I went to the same boot camp he did back in 1981, but I stayed in corporate America until he learned everything and fixed everything. I see, oh yeah, you fixed it all, Ron. So
Our big brother flew down here shortly after that seminar and spent 2 days in my teaching in real estate. Now, he ain't in it for money, but to this very day, whenever he needs money, he goes and buys a house, or goes and flips a house. So he's a good example.
right, exactly.
Adam?
Are you asleep?
No, I'm here.